try to come at least once a year for a football game. We've been coming up a bit more lately. And thank you to everybody for this. This is a tremendous honor. Growing up, I knew that I wanted to work in sports, and early in my life, I thought that I would be a sports doctor, on the sidelines at major sporting events, right in the thick of the action, making my parents proud. When I realized that I struggled with having my blood taken, I knew that I needed to pivot to something else. It was my experience on the debate team at Nova High School that made me realize that I had a passion for negotiating, and that I liked the feeling when judges found that my arguments were persuasive. So I enrolled at the University of Florida for my undergraduate degree in 2003 and signed up to be a political science major, with the intention of eventually going to law school. 4 years later, in 2007, I was right here, although not in this particular building because it was not yet built, ready to get my 3 years of law school education rolling. I was the student who wore tank tops to class and sat in the back row, respectful toward my professors, but not entirely focused on the coursework. I was interested in being a sports agent. So I sat in the back of those classrooms, following the latest sports news, writing articles for the website that I had created called Sports Agent Blog, which still exists today, and communicating with potential clients to sign up with an agency that I happened to decide to create right while I was going into law school. Not exactly how the American Bar Association wants you to treat your first year of law school, yet the world works in mysterious ways. And the ABA would later ask me to write a couple of sports law treatises, so I guess things worked out. When I was in law school, I forfeited the traditional law clerking opportunities over the summers in favor of working to build a struggling sports agency that I had created and kept it going for a year after graduation, when I ultimately decided that it was time to hang up the cleats and focus on becoming a full-time legal practitioner. Again, it was a pivot. Not as drastic as changing your dream of being a doctor for being a lawyer, but still quite substantial. When I was in law school, I firmly believed that my destiny was in serving as a sports agent. Here I was, in 2011, 1 year out of law school, throwing that dream away. But I didn't look at it that way. In a book called The Dip by Seth Godin, he uses terms like cliffs, cul-de-sacs, and dips to discuss different types of roadblocks in business. Cul-de-sacs are described as situations that look appealing, but don't go anywhere no matter how hard you try. I realized that creating my own agency from scratch without any financial backing was a cul-de-sac, and that I needed to pivot. I needed to put my efforts into something that had real potential. An initial task was to turn my so-called sports agent competitors into clients. And one of the most important emails that I received was on February 29, 2012, from Drew Rosenhaus. There was no subject, and it was one sentence long. It said, quote, "Darren, please give me a call." I called Drew, and he asked whether I would be interested in meeting him and his brother at one of their favorite restaurants on Lincoln Road in South Beach. As a 27-year-old lawyer who looked up to Drew Rosenhaus as one of, if not the most important and successful sports agents, I jumped at the opportunity. I quickly learned that he had been following my writings for some time, appreciated my passion for the industry, and wanted to start feeding me a couple of projects to see how I fared. I began with representing Rosenhaus Sports representation on a few claims against players who had failed to make payment on the required agent fees. This was new for them. They had resisted making these claims for a long time due to a fear that it would cause players to stay away from hiring them. With delicacy, I secured a few wins, and then they began sending me some of their clients who had a variety of issues that had come up. They appreciated my tenacity, my quick and thorough communication, and that I was willing to offer fair rates to both Rosenhaus Sports representation and their referrals. Ultimately, Drew and Jason Rosenhaus trusted me with all their legal work and were some of the biggest advocates for me to leave the Miami-based law firm that I was at and start up Heitner Legal in June 2014. They have become family to me and are a big reason for my success to date. Do well for a client and it will turn into many more for your practice. On the athlete side, I had the fortune of being connected in 2014 with a basketball player who was drafted in the second round of the 2012 NBA draft and was looking for a little bit of help on the marketing side as he tried to gain some relevance in the NBA. I figured I would give it a shot and started to find him some opportunities. He then asked me to handle all of his intellectual property work. Who knew that that individual would later become a 3-time NBA champion, 3-time All-Star, as well as winning NBA Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. I certainly didn't at the time, but I took a chance. Draymond Green ended up becoming a great client who led to many other opportunities for me down the road. You never know what opportunities you will have as a lawyer. You just need to do your best to put yourself in the right place at the right time, have a network of people you can count on for advice and for approval, and deliver when it's crunch time. That's sort of how my story in sports law began, and hopefully, 10 years into practicing law, it's still only just the beginning. I'd like to finish by thanking all of you for having me here today. It's a tremendous honor to receive the recognition that has been provided to me, and I'm very thankful just for having the opportunity to participate in this symposium. Thank you to my family for continuing to support me. Thank you to my parents and my wife who are here today in Gainesville. And thank you to those who continue to represent this university, whether it be hosting a marvelous event like this, or just being an advocate for the university and its alumni. Finally, and most importantly, go Gators.